The Sanford House will come to order. The Knutson Senate Sergeant at Arms is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, we have the honor to announce the arrival of the Honorable Adrian Ali Kakamo, President-elect of the Knutson Senate, and the members of the Knutson Senate of the state of Minnesota.
Please escort President-elect Ali Kakamo and the members of the Knutson Senate into the chamber.
Fire up.
Members of the Senate, please find a seat, otherwise file in along the back of the room. Make sure there's space for everybody to enter. The Knutson Senate Sergeant at Arms is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, we have the honor to announce the arrival of the Youth Cabinet of the state of Minnesota and the Youth Supreme Court of the state of Minnesota.
Please escort the members of the Youth Cabinet and the Youth Supreme Court into the chamber. The Knutson Senate Sergeant at Arms is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, we have the honor to announce the arrival of the Honorable Charlie Schumer, Youth Secretary of State-elect of the state of Minnesota.
Please escort Secretary-elect Schumer into the chamber. The Joint Convention will now come to order. Please rise for a moment of silent prayer, meditation, or reflection, and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. The President-elect of the Knutson Senate, the Honorable Adrian Alikakamo, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements.
The President of the Joint Convention announces the following Joint Committee of the Sanford House and Knutson Senate to escort the Honorable Justice David Lillehag, Justice of the Supreme Court of the State of Minnesota, into the chamber. Representative Temple, Representative Hunter, Representative Kopp, Representative Pastrana, Senator Ostergen, Senator Yeager, Senator Quiros, Senator Stuckey.
The Knutson Senate Sergeant at Arms is recognized.
Mr. Speaker, we have the honor to announce the arrival of the Honorable Justice David Lillehag, Justice of the Supreme Court of the State of Minnesota.
Please escort Justice Lillehag into the chamber. Announcements.
The President of the Joint Convention announces the following Joint Committee of the Sanford House and Knutson Senate to escort the Honorable Steve Simon, Secretary of State of the State of Minnesota, into the chamber. Representative Temple, Representative Hunter, Representative Kopp, Representative Pastrana, Senator Ostergen, Senator Yeager, Senator Quiros, Senator Stuckey.
The Knutson Senate Sergeant at Arms is recognized.
Mr. President, we have the honor to announce the arrival of the Honorable Steve Simon, Secretary of State for the State of Minnesota.
Please escort Secretary of State Simon into the chamber.
The President of the Joint Convention announces the following Joint Committee of the Sanford House and Knutson Senate to escort the Honorable Kyan Corder, Youth Governor-elect of the State of Minnesota, into the chamber. Representative Temple, Representative Hunter, Representative Kopp, Representative Pastrana, Senator Ostergen, Senator Yeager, Senator Quiros, Senator Stuckey.
The Knutson Senate Sergeant at Arms is recognized.
Mr. President, we have the honor to announce the arrival of the Honorable Kyan Corder, Youth Governor-elect of the State of Minnesota.
Please escort Youth Governor-elect Corder into the chamber. I have the honor to recognize Justice Lillehag to administer the oath of office to the members of the Youth Legislature, the Youth Legislative appointed officials, and to the Youth Speaker of the Sanford House, Youth President of the Knutson Senate, Youth Secretary of State, and Youth Governor.
Good afternoon. On behalf of the judicial branch of the state of Minnesota, I welcome you to this joint convention and commend you for your participation. This is a wonderful program, and I'm honored to be a part of this important ceremony. Now, would all members of the legislature please rise? Please raise your right hand for the oath. Do you and all of you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and that you will faithfully divulge the duties faithfully discharge the duties devolving upon you as youth legislators of the state of Minnesota to the best of your judgment and ability, so help you God. Please say, I do. Thank you. You may be seated. Would all legislative appointed officials please rise? Please raise your right hand for the oath. Do you and all of you solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties devolving upon you as appointed officials of the Youth Legislature of the State of Minnesota to the best of your judgment and ability, so help you God? If so, please say, I do. Thank you. All right, we're ready to swear in the Speaker of the House. Would you come down here, please? Please raise your right hand. Do you, Justin Reiling, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties devolving upon you as Youth Speaker of the Sanford House of the State of Minnesota to the best of your judgment and ability, so help you God?
I do.
Thank you. Congratulations. Thank you. Let's have a round of applause for the Speaker. Please raise your right hand. Do you, Adrian Ali Kakamo, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties devolving upon you as Youth President of the Knutson Senate of the State of Minnesota to the best of your judgment and ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations. And we have Secretary of State Simon here, but I think there's another Secretary of State. Am I not mistaken? Here, please come over here to take the oath. And raise your right hand. Do you, Charlie Schumer, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties devolving upon you as Youth Secretary of State of the State of Minnesota to the best of your judgment and ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations. We had Inauguration Day on Monday, and of course the big moment was the moment the new governor took the oath, and we similarly have that moment here. Would you please stand to take the oath? Do you, Cayenne Corder, solemnly swear that you will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Minnesota, and that you will faithfully discharge the duties devolving upon you as Youth Governor of the State of Minnesota to the best of your judgment and ability, so help you God?
I do.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you very much and have a wonderful session.
Thank you, Justice Lillehog. I have the honor to introduce Steve Simon, Secretary of State of the State of Minnesota.
Well, thank you, Mr. Speaker. Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you, Youth Governor. Thanks to all senators and representatives and cabinet members and members of the Youth Supreme Court, and of course, the Secretary of State. Welcome. Welcome to the Minnesota Capitol. And welcome to the Minnesota House, the House Chamber. I served in this chamber for 10 years as a state representative, representing Hopkins and St. Louis Park. It was an honor, and it was a thrill. For the last 4 years, though, I've had a different job. As Secretary of State, my office has many responsibilities, from helping small businesses in Minnesota to protecting victims of domestic violence. But most people, when and if they think of the Office of Secretary of State in Minnesota, think of our function as being the Chief Elections Administrator, of overseeing our state election system. So I like to say that I'm in the democracy business. And it's an amazing time to be in the democracy business. And one who is, as one who is in that business, I really want to thank you for being here. Some of you have been, most of you I suspect, in youth and government before. Some are new. Regardless, I think you're going to really love the next few days. I know that when I was in this program over 30 years ago, I really loved it too. As a student at Hopkins High School, any Hopkins Royals here in the audience? Okay, good. Way to represent. That's good. I really enjoyed the chance to be in the Capitol, to discuss major issues, to meet students from all over the state, and yes, to hang out with friends in a hotel. Some of you are here because a parent or a teacher pushed you to give it a try. Some of you, I suspect, are here because you heard about it through friends or others and you wanted to see what it was all about. Some of you are here because you think that someday you just might want to try your hand at running for elective office. And some of you are here because you want to hang out with friends in a hotel. Whatever the reason, the next few days will be a great experience. Now, you're going to be exposed, as many of you know who have been here year after year, you're going to be exposed over the next few days to a lot of opinions and a lot of approaches to a lot of issues. You will disagree, maybe even strongly disagree, with some of those opinions and some of those approaches. And when that happens, not if, but when that happens, when you encounter that strong disagreement, I have a few words of advice, having been in this program and having been in public office and public service for a while. The first one, and there's no better way to put this, I think, the first one is to, frankly, deal with it. Just deal with the fact that you're encountering people whose ideas or approaches you don't agree with. We live in an age of political polarization. It is worse than it has been in this country in a very, very long time. Part of the problem, I think, is that too many people treat those with whom they disagree as enemies, not just adversaries, not just as opponents on a particular issue or bill or problem or challenge, but as actual enemies. And I acknowledge that a great way to get a lot of clicks and likes and recognition is to be snarky about those differences all the time. But that snarkiness, that constant snarkiness, is sort of like a sugar high. Its positive effect is very short-term and very short-lived. It wears off quickly, and what's left after it wears off is often a mess, and often a diminished reputation as well. The other thing I would urge you to do is question your own assumptions. I'm not saying that after the next few days you're going to revisit every belief and view that you have, or even that you should. But I think one of the great things about youth in government is it does cause you, if you go about it the right way, in my opinion, to reflect upon your own views and question your own assumptions. Ask yourself internally, do I hold the view I hold because of the way I've lived my life that maybe that other person hasn't lived? Is there something about where I live or how I was raised or my background or a particular event in my life that makes me think or feel the way I do about a particular issue or approach? That's not to say if you discover the answer to that question, you ought to change how you view the world. But I think it's important to be self-aware and understand that maybe you came to this belief a certain way, and a person who holds an alternative belief might have come to it a different way that doesn't match your life experience. Third, try to see the world from another vantage point. In other words, practice empathy. Ask yourself why others hold views that conflict with yours. I guess what I want to say generally is that if you can't process differences of opinion, even passionate differences on core moral issues, if you can't do that with some self-restraint, then you should think really hard about whether public service is for you. But if you can think about differences in a mature way, in a self-reflective way, then welcome to public service. And on that note, let me just tell you, I can tell you with near certainty right now that any one of you in this chamber who can hear the sound of my voice could do my job, could be Secretary of State. And I haven't even met most of you. The reason I say that, and the reason I want to give you encouragement, is that oftentimes those who are interested in running for public office, and you may not be, you may never be, but if you are, don't let anyone ever tell you that there is one true and only path to doing that. You know, there's so much conventional thinking about what it takes and what you have to do if you want to be in public service in general or run for office in particular. You have to go to this kind of school. You have to major in this kind of subject. You have to sort of get your ticket punched, so to speak, along the way and do certain things. That really isn't true. And I think increasingly it's untrue as more and more people from different backgrounds and life experiences successfully run for public office. So my hope is when you leave here and in the years to come, you never let anyone convince you that if you don't go down one particular prescribed path, that there's no hope for you to be involved in public service or in elected office. That is not true, and thankfully so. So there's one other thing that I want to talk to you about, and it's only indirectly related to youth in government, but quite simply, I am looking for your advice. Maybe not now, maybe not tomorrow or next week or next month, but I am looking for your advice. And here's what I mean by that. One of my major areas of focus as Secretary of State has been to concentrate on voting among our youngest voters, let's say 18 to 24. Now, I'm guessing only a few of you are already 18, but you all will be 18 someday. And it's no secret that in Minnesota and everywhere I know in the United States, our youngest voters, those who are eligible those first few years, vote at far lower rates than the rest of the population. That's just what happens. So when I came into office 4 years ago, I wanted to do something about that. So my office started early by going into high schools. We started the first ever mock election for high school students. Our goal at one point was to get to 100 high schools. We didn't. We got to nearly 300 high schools. And the first time we did it, we had 96,000 students participating in it. That was in 2016. In the election that just passed in 2018, we had 130,000 of you participating in an election, a mock election, something that had never been done before. The idea here wasn't just to do a fun exercise or see which schools voted certain ways for which candidates. The idea here was to get good habits started early. Now, habit is one way of getting people to vote, and it's a good way. But motivation is another, and you all know this from your own common sense, and that's where I need your advice. Now, I have my own view about what will motivate our youngest voters to vote. I think, for example, that for too long, when we've been talking to young people about voting, we've too often tended to rely wholly or exclusively on sort of the idealistic reasons for voting. And you've heard them before. You should vote because it's the right thing to do. You should vote because you're part of a community and you have to be part of something larger than yourself. Or you should vote because people fought and bled and sometimes even died for the right to vote. And all those things are true, and we should never abandon them as reasons for voting. But what I'm suggesting, and what I've tried to act on in the last 4 years, is that we need to add to those reasons. Not get rid of them and not stop talking about them, but add to them. And instead of only and exclusively talking about the idealistic reasons to vote, we should also, particularly to our youngest voters, talk about how it's in everyone's self-interest to vote. This isn't giving blood. We're not asking someone to do something that's wholly a selfless act for the benefit of someone else. This is also good for you to get in the habit of voting and choosing who actually governs you. So while that's my view, that all roads lead to the ballot box, that it's in everyone's self-interest, that as one elected official likes to say, you may not be into politics, but politics is into you. Those are the things that I think about the best approaches, but I really want to hear from all of you because you're in it and you're around it. And especially from all of you, because you're in youth in government. I don't have so many worries about the people in this room. You have self-selected to be in this program because there's some part of you that is interested in these issues and in these processes. So I'm not as worried about the people in this room. But what about some of your classmates and your peers and your friends? Are they going to be as active and involved and interested as you are? Regardless of the answer to that question, I think you have some ideas. In fact, I know you do, about how we can get young people to really care about and deeply engage in issues and ultimately vote at the ballot box. So we know that there are people out there who don't vote because they don't know the rules. And then there are people out there who don't vote not because they don't know the rules. They don't vote because they don't want to vote. They don't care about voting. They don't think it affects them, and they don't think it ever will. And those are the folks who we have to get to, and that's going to take a lot of hard work. So I urge you to reach out to my office. Reach out to me there. My email is, in the public domain. And let me know if you have thoughts or ideas about how I or my office can further expand our efforts at voter outreach. It's terribly important, not only now, but in the years to come. As I said, I'm in the democracy business, and we want to make sure that business continues to be booming in Minnesota. In the meantime, stay involved, stay interested, stay active, and step up. I know that you will. Youth in Government is a tremendous start, and I thank you very, very much. Thank you and good luck.
Thank you, Secretary of State Simon. I have the honor to introduce the Youth Governor of the State of Minnesota, Cayenne Corder.
In 1946, the youth of Minnesota came together to model our state government. And for the 65th time, we get to be here to experience that same thrill. Welcome, delegates, to the 2019 Model Assembly. From Grand Marais to Albert Lea, Mankato to Virginia, Minnesota, we've come to spend the next 4 days together. Today, we begin. We begin to reconnect and dust off the parliamentary procedure that we haven't used since last January. We begin to discuss consequential issues and schedule court hearings. We begin to interact with people we've never met and become the extroverted delegates we never knew we could be. As we start this weekend, I ask you to reflect on why you are here. What about this program keeps you coming back? When prompted with the question, what does youth in government mean, delegates' responses vary. A delegate from Wisconsin writes, youth in government is about confidence. It's about letting kids know that their ideas and their voices matter. An Arizonian says, youth in government is just as much about learning to listen as it is learning to speak. Another delegate from Maryland describes how he grew up in the program. He says, it's hard to describe how different my life would be without youth in government. I was silent. And he writes in all capital letters, silent. I was without confidence and without belief in myself. 2 exclamation points. Everyone told me how different I became after I joined YIG and how much more confident I got. I pretty much broke out of my shell, tore it to shreds, and then, of course, recycled it. Winky face. And thank God I did. A Kentuckian says, YIG is about finding the importance of one's voice and of the youth's passion to use their voices. As you can see, delegates, YIG holds a special place in each of these delegates' hearts all around America. The impact of this program is widespread, even reaching students in Hawaii. YIG is a national movement that is gaining momentum with each growing program. And for 4 short days, we all get to be a part of that movement. What I find especially remarkable about this program is no matter our background, no matter where we come from, we have a voice here. It's refreshing to come back to this home, Model Assembly, knowing that we will pick up exactly where we left off last January. When you walk through the doors of the Hilton Hotel this afternoon, everything anyone knows about you was left at that door. Every preconceived opinion about you was forgotten, and you have a fresh start. So you have a choice to present yourself any way you'd like this weekend and share the most important part of your story. You have the opportunity to live the best version of yourself, no matter what's going on in your personal life back home. Oftentimes, the chaos of our lives and current issues, like the government shutdown, distract us from the need for kindness in political settings and elsewhere. YIG is a place where we learn to navigate and overcome the tensions of a controversial conversation. We learn to be comfortable around the uncomfortable. As you all know, the conversations we will have will be exhausting and we aren't going to agree. While engaging in these conversations this weekend, do not lose sight of the kindness that will bring us to a compromise and keep this experience a positive one for everyone. Delegates, not often enough do we stop to express our gratitude towards people who impact our lives in both small and big ways. We leave our stories at the door, and you don't know what others may be enduring outside of this conference. So what you say or do this weekend may very well impact another delegate's story, and it's up to you to make sure that this is a positive impact. Sticking to an opinion, even if you may be the only delegate who opposes a bill, or a moving opening statement, or an impressive argument during a court case are all examples of small victories that are worth noticing and appreciating. A great way to share this appreciation is through the Why I'm Grateful project. On Friday and Saturday night during evening activities, a table will be set up on the 3rd floor. Here, you will have a chance to reflect on your day and reach out to a delegate via a short handwritten note. These notes will be delivered on Sunday morning. Kind actions need to be further integrated into our everyday life. Kindness is not a trait that some have and others don't. It's a choice that all of us can make every single day. At any moment of the day, we can live the best version of ourselves and be kind. Powerful kindness comes in the form of very small actions, delegates. So I encourage you to stop by the table on Friday or Saturday night to express appreciation for the amazing things that your peers will accomplish in the next few days. In what you speak this weekend, in how you vote, in the way you present yourself, remember this need for kindness that we all seek and that all of us have the ability to deliver. You can live out the best version of yourself this weekend and impact the best version of others. Lastly, delegates, I'd like to recognize the idea that not a single model assembly will be quite like this one. Never again will you be sitting in these seats surrounded by these delegates. Only a small fraction of our lives, guys, only 4 days will be spent completely devoted to the bills and court cases of this assembly. And it will never happen quite like this again. Let us take a moment to revel in the significance of that. Guys, I cannot wait to see the amazing work all of you will accomplish this weekend, so let's not waste a single minute of it. Thank you.
Thank you, Governor Corder. I have the honor to introduce Melissa Hortman, Speaker of the Minnesota House of Representatives.
Hi. How is everybody? Good. Welcome to the Minnesota House of Representatives, or today, does it have a different title? Sanford House? I wish I would have been able to see the whole proceedings. I'm so excited that you're here and that you're involved in this program because, you know, we're counting on you to save planet Earth, right? If we happen to not get it right in our time in office. This is a really incredible learning opportunity for you in this really incredible space. And I hope that folks are finding it to be kind of exhilarating. Is this just the beginning? This is the beginning, right? You guys are here all weekend or all night? All weekend, okay. And so is this just the opening session for the, got it. And have you had a couple of elections yet to elect some people to? This Saturday, okay. So you are just at the very, very beginning. That's exactly where we are in the session. We are in the lost and confused stage of the session. So we opened the session on Tuesday, and then we had an all-day educational training for members of the Minnesota House of Representatives, the folks whose names are on those desks, on Wednesday. And today we're doing sexual harassment training and implicit bias training. So all of us in a room together for 8 hours learning about how to treat each other in a way that is respectful and inclusive. So like where you are now at the very beginning of your weekend experience, just getting to know each other, just starting to get to mesh and meld, that is the stage that we're at, and also a little bit exhausted. But I am happy to take questions if folks have questions. This is your chance to get good campaign advice. So when I first started thinking that maybe I would want a career in public service, I was 10 years old, and I was in social studies class at my elementary school, and I learned about the civil rights struggle. and I learned about how the Civil Rights Act was signed into law by a president, and it was a U.S. Congress that passed that. And before we learned about what the Congress had done with the Civil Rights Act, we learned about the Civil Rights Movement and Martin Luther King and how hard people had to fight to get their rights recognized. And I thought, that is pretty cool. I want to be part of that. And what I noticed was, it seemed that most of the best presidents throughout history, I thought, were lawyers. And so I thought, well, maybe I should become a lawyer. And then that would be the way that I would run for public office. Abraham Lincoln was a lawyer. John F. Kennedy was a lawyer. So it seemed like the pathway. And then I didn't really think about it a lot. I don't know about you guys, but I went on a little bit drift from 5th grade to then into high school and thinking I wanted to go to college. And I sort of lost track of that plan of becoming a lawyer. And I wanted to become a travel writer for Bon Appetit and travel all around the world and write articles about food. But falling in love with politics never left me. So at a certain point, when I graduated from undergrad and I didn't know what to do next, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I grew up, the easiest thing was to go to law school because it was safe. It was another school opportunity. So I went to law school, then I came out and I practiced law as a legal aid attorney, and I used to sue racist and sexist landlords, which was really, really fun. And during the time I was doing that, my state representative was doing things that I didn't think were so cool. There was a bill going through the Minnesota House of Representatives that would have required insurance companies to let a new mom stay in the hospital 2 nights. That it should be covered that she gets to stay 2 nights in the hospital. And I had just had baby number 1 and baby number 2, and I thought, that seems reasonable. But my state representative was fighting against that. He thought that was pretty mean to the insurance companies. And I thought, yeah, somebody's got to run against this guy. Like, he doesn't get it. And so I was recruited to run by my local DFLers. And I ran in 1998, and I lost, which was traumatizing. And then I ran in 2002, and I lost again, and that was also very traumatizing. And some crazy person convinced me that I should run in 2004. And I ran in 2004, and I have won every election since 2004, every 2 years. So this is my 8th victory. And I tell you that story because I think it's really, really important to realize that before you're going to be good at something, you are going to be bad at something. Serena Williams was bad at tennis when she started. Tiger Woods was bad at golf when he started. But after some failures and continued efforts, they were successful. The other reason I eventually ran for office is when I was 16 years old, I went to my guidance counselor at my high school, and because John F. Kennedy had gone to Harvard, and I wanted to be president and a lawyer just like John F. Kennedy, I wanted to go to Harvard. So I said to my school guidance counselor, I would like to apply to Harvard and get admitted. Do you have any advice for me? And she laughed. She actually laughed. And she said, kids from Blaine don't get into Harvard. And I said, why is that? And she said, kids from Blaine don't have AP, we don't have debate, we don't have honors stuff. And so if your parents really wanted you to go to Harvard, they should have moved to Edina when you were little, or they should have sent you to a private school. And I was dating a guy that went to Bloomington Jefferson High School, and their school was like the Taj Mahal compared to Blaine at the time. And I thought, that's not fair. Like, any kid in Minnesota, no matter where they live, should have a shot to get into Harvard. And so that was, then my kids went to the same school system that I went to. And I got really involved in their elementary school, and when they were real little, that's when I ran for office and got elected. So there's a moral of that story, too. I applied to Harvard undergrad. They said not interested. I applied to Harvard Law School. They said no thanks. And then, though, I applied for the Master's in Public Administration, and they let me in. So again, the third time was the charm. So first I was bad at getting into Harvard, but eventually I got good at it. So if at first you don't succeed, try again. Other questions? Yes. Relationships matter incredibly much. So I would say relationships are number one, And then understanding your stuff is number 2. And what people think is more important than what people know. So if you convey confidence and a belief in what you're doing, then you are more likely to get people on your side. First, you have to believe the vision. Then you have to convince other people to believe the vision. And then you have to execute the plan. And you have to have a plan. The other thing I would say is politics is all about numbers. There is a score, and if you can't count, you can't win. So you always need to know how many votes you have at any given moment. And you can never, ever assume somebody who's nice to you will vote for you. You need to ask for their vote and get a clear commitment. Yes, well, my bills that I've co-authored with Republicans are more lighthearted. So if you get together with your neighbors and you play Texas Hold'em and you all throw $5 in and you win the pot, that used to be illegal. That used to be considered gambling. But I co-authored with a Republican a bill to change Texas Hold'em from gambling to a game of skill. So now it's like bridge, totally legal for you to gamble while you're playing Texas Hold'em because it's not gambling. So that's a bill I did with a Republican. But the 3 bills I'm most proud of are, we did a transportation funding package in 2008. You guys maybe weren't born. You were born. You maybe weren't cognizant of it, but you know, the bridge fell on August 1st, 2007. 13 Minnesotans lost their life. I was a member of the House when that happened. I was in my 2nd term. I was on the Transportation Committee. I had been on the Transportation Committee the biennium before. We had tried to pass a transportation bill. The very first thing most of us thought in this body when that bridge fell, who were working on transportation, was there something we should have done? Like, is it our fault? Did we not fund what we needed to make sure that didn't happen? So my proudest accomplishment was when we passed a transportation funding bill to fix every single fracture critical bridge in Minnesota so that we could never, ever have a bridge that would fail in that way again. So that was my first most proud moment. Second, I passed a bill called Child Passenger Restraint, and this one probably affected your life when you were little. It used to be that you didn't have to put a kid in a booster seat once they were like 4 years old. You could kind of let them sit wherever they wanted in the car. And I passed a requirement that you have to keep a child in a booster seat until they're 8 years old, or the seatbelt hits the bony part of their shoulder and their hip, their certain weight. And there's at least 1,000 children alive today, many who are not as badly injured as they would have been if that law wouldn't have passed. So that's number 2. And the reason why I call out that one and the transportation one is I think that my role was different than like any other member. There was, of course, a huge number of people, but I think the things that I in particular did in those 2 cases were special. And then the third one that I'm super proud of is in 2013 and 2014, I got to be a chair of a committee, which is the coolest thing. I think it might even be cooler than being speaker is to be a chair of a committee because you really get to dig in on legislation. And I passed a law that required the electric utilities in Minnesota to buy all of the power that's generated from community solar gardens and to buy at least 1.5% of our electricity from solar PV, photovoltaic cells. And so that will, I think, has avoided millions of tons of carbon pollution already, and looking into the future will avoid millions and millions more tons of carbon pollution. And that one, I'm fairly confident, would not be the law of the state of Minnesota if it wasn't me who was carrying the bill. Yeah? What are you excited for in the next 2 years? I'm really hopeful. I think, I wonder what you guys think, but I think we're a little bit in an ugly moment in politics. I think that the Trump election has put us at the pinnacle of a divided country. People really hated Hillary Clinton. People really hated Donald Trump. We're about as divided as we've ever been. But I actually like the Republican leader of the Senate, and he and I are getting along pretty well. So I'm really hopeful that in the next 2 years, he and I, with our personalities that are kind of different, I think, from the average politician, that we can show that maybe there's a different way that this can work, and that we can have really, really strong disagreements without demonizing each other. We'll see, though. It's early. We're definitely in the honeymoon period.
Thank you, Speaker Hortman.
Thank you. It was nice to visit with you.
I have the honor to introduce the Youth Chief Justice of the Minnesota Supreme Court, Luke Stavdahl, to review the Code of Conduct.
Good afternoon. At its best, youth in government can be a truly amazing and transformative experience for our delegates. However, in order to ensure that youth in government is a positive experience for all of our delegates, we need to abide by a set of guidelines. These guidelines are set in place to ensure that all delegates are respecting these facilities here at the Capitol and at the Hilton, and are respecting each other, and are respecting our adult advisors. So to begin, delegates are not allowed to enter hotel rooms other than their own hotel room. I've seen it been done in the past, and I've seen people go home because they thought they could go into another delegate's hotel room. You might think it's harmless, but it's a matter of safety, and you need to stay only within your own hotel room. If you need to switch hotel rooms, you need to speak with your delegation director and the Youth in Government State Office. Next, if it's illegal at home, it's illegal here. Do not bring any illegal drugs or any type of alcohol or tobacco products into the Youth in Government facilities. Next, we need to respect our facilities, both here and at the Hilton Hotel. That means candy, gum, food, and beverages are strictly prohibited throughout the Capitol and are limited in the spaces they can be used in the Hilton Hotel. If you want to drink water, that is okay, but please do it in the public spaces rather than in these chambers. If we do not abide by these rules, the Capitol may choose to take these spaces away from us in the future. We have had the great privilege of being able to use this space for a long time. And if we choose not to respect it, it could be taken away at a moment's notice. Please do not be the year that ruins this privilege. Next, dress code. You need to wear your name tag at all times, except when you're in your hotel room, obviously. This is a matter of safety so that adult advisors can identify who is in youth in government and who is not, to make sure that we know that all people are in the right places at the right times. Additionally, although casual wear is acceptable during certain times of the conference, for the majority of the conference, you will need to be in professional attire. This includes button-down shirts, blouses, and polos, sweaters, suit vests, suit coats, blazers and ties, and dress pants. If you're not sure whether something qualifies as professional attire, ask a trusted friend or an advisor. If you're gonna wear shoes that are uncomfortable, you're gonna need to wear them the whole day. Otherwise, just wear flats. If you ever find yourself in a situation where you're confused about how you should act and how you should carry yourself, and you're referencing this lovely piece of literature that is the Code of Conduct, and you can't find the answer and you're not sure what to do because somehow the Code of Conduct doesn't cover it, I'd like you to remind yourself that Youth in Government is a YMCA program, and the YMCA has 4 core values that I'm sure you're all aware of: honesty, caring, respect, and responsibility. I promise you that if you do your best to embody these traits throughout the conference, you will be okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Justice Stavdahl. I have the honor to introduce the State Steering Committee Chair, Anna Weber, to deliver remarks on the State Steering Committee's initiatives.
Good afternoon, and welcome to the 65th Annual Model Assembly Session. My name is Anna Weber, and I am your State Steering Committee Chair. I hope that you are all as excited as I am for the next few days. I would like to take this time to discuss Why I Give, among other opportunities this weekend. Why I Give is our student-to-student fundraiser, where delegates in YIG are able to give back to the program by donating loose change, which directly funds financial aid scholarships for youth and government programs. 1 in 4 delegates at Youth and Government receive some sort of financial aid, so this campaign is essential to supporting students' passion for government. The Why I Give fundraising campaign is continuing for its 6th year, and this year's goal is $2,700. We were able to reach this goal, but we need your help. Our main table for donations is in the Skyway at the Hilton during meal times. Of course, we wouldn't ask you to donate without a little incentive. If you donate $3, there's a gift of a brand new YMCA YIG pen. For $5, you're able to receive an exclusive Youth and Government sticker, which is different from last year's. And $8 gets you a green lanyard like mine to replace the one you wear now. We also have a great deal. For $10, you can receive 2 of the previously stated items of your choice. All in all, Why I Give is a great way to support students in youth and government. Delegates receiving financial aid are all throughout YIG, from the girl debating passionately about tax policy to your new friend from committee, and maybe even you. Please consider the importance of giving. There's no better place to learn than at Youth and Government. This year's senior send-off will be held on Saturday at 7 p.m. in Marquette 1, 2, and 3 at the Hilton. Not only are there cool prizes to be won, but you can learn about the YIG Alumni Network and how to maintain your relationship with YIG after you graduate. This is also an opportunity for career development, as YIG keeps your information so you can stay connected within the network of amazing YIG alumni. Lastly, there is the YIG Yap. You can download the app using the code or URL on the back of your session book. The Yap is like a session book on your phone with everything in one place. It also includes elected officer and appointed official filing forms. If you are interested in running for office or applying for a position, please note the deadline stated in the election rules. Please also note that officer filing forms are due during the conference and official forms are due after. The Yap is also where any updates throughout the conference are sent out, so please download it to stay in the loop. Thank you and have a wonderful afternoon at Model Assembly.
Thank you. Announcements.
There are no announcements at this time.
The distinguished Knutson Senate Floor Leader, Senator Anderson, is recognized.
I move the joint convention do now adjourn.
Senator Anderson moves the joint convention do now adjourn. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The motion prevails and the joint convention stands adjourned. The Sanford House stands in recess until 8:30 p.m.
Adrian?